mean, you basically are telling your people, rate your people on their performance, and then whatever the budget constraints are, we'll come back and, I mean, figure out how we're gonna distribute that sum of money.
I tend to agree. And the other thing is we gotta understand as members of the governing body is that anything we commit to in terms of a compensation pool for merit, that's being rolled into base salary. This is not a one-year deal.
Right.
So anything that we add is going to be permanently added to the bottom line for these departments as we move forward. We're building in an increase.
Well, how's that merit based then?
No, but what I'm saying is that once you give somebody a merit increase, that's part of their base compensation, Larry.
That's why bonuses are sometimes better because it's.
Well, then why are we doing it? Are we doing it that way? Is that what you're suggesting? Is that
Yeah, you're gonna increase your salary budget.
So how is that is not going to bring out the high performing best work of people who already know that, well, if I didn't get up next year, at least I got it last year, and it carries on 5 years from now.
Well, if you keep this thing in place, you have an opportunity to continue to earn. So, but from a budgetary standpoint, I think that's a fine question to ask is, which is a better tool to manage, a COLA increase, which would be part of their salaries, paired with a merit bonus rather than a merit salary increase.
That is a discussion among the governing body because those are your big policy decisions. And I think you have that discussion with your city administrator.
From a tax perspective, which one is better? I mean, I think lump sums are taxed at a higher rate, I think, for not only the employee but also for the organization. Is that correct?
The lump sum bonus?
Yes.
That's just exactly. The incentive for high performance is the option to continue to earn more, and it goes into your base pay, and you get retirement and whatever if you're in that. It's all part of it. That's the incentive. And then we've just discussed, the city administrator had some thoughts on maybe a spot bonus for a job well done, but maybe not high performance quite, maybe not quite high performance, but maybe high performance on a certain project. There are, unlimited ways to do this. But this is a discussion to have with your CEO.
The other thing we haven't talked about, we've been hooked on what numbers they have to qualify for bonuses. The other piece of this, and I think it speaks a little bit to what Larry just talked about, was it also gives us measurements for performance and also allows us to build in through our HR director and those performance mechanisms either to increase performance or just like Christy said, manage that person out of the position. If they score high once and then continue to go down, it's not a 10-year situation. It's an opportunity where we can review each individual on a yearly basis and say, here's some performance metrics that you haven't met, here's an action plan to help you meet those, and if you're unable to do so with these tools, then there's probably an opportunity for us to make a change in time for us to reconsider the position. So there's two tools to that measurement process. So it prevents what Larry's scared of someone achieving it once with a little salary bump and then forgetting about it down the road, I think.
Well, here's the other problem is that then you have an entire department, considering if somebody gets it 1 year and doesn't get it the next year, but the other person in the department gets it, you have sort of a bracket creep, and then the next thing you know, the director, can't be equal with his highest paid employee. He's got to go up now in addition. I mean, don't you think that, haven't we seen that before?
But
in previous administrations we've seen where, we can't possibly have a supervisor that's making almost the same as a manager, and a manager that's almost making the same amount as a director. And then what happened was, in many situations, probably before, I guess Chris and Christy and I had been in these meetings, that the next thing you know, the director's salary is going up even if they didn't merit the increase, because there was such a flat pay structure. Does everybody see what I'm saying? So
And that organization.
That was the previous problem with the previous administration.
It's going to continue this time if you allow numbers that stand year after year, whether the merit was deserved or not.
As Christy kind of was mentioning on the side here, it happens in all organizations. That's a problem that happens with businesses all the time. And usually what happens is that those management individuals who aren't receiving those raises are either managed out of the organization, or they are taken care of in some other way. But it happens in other municipalities, it happens in other cities.
But the
It
difference
happens in
is
companies.
the numbers aren't visible in a corporation. I mean, a corporation, one department could do whatever they want, and you'd never know. I mean,
But part of the, well, and one of the thing is, if you look at our salary scale, and, you know, we've talked about this before, and this is why I kind of struggle, I mean, I like the mid-max. I do struggle with people getting too far out of line over the max that's published.
Yep.
However, if you look, some of our mins overlap with other group maxes, and a lot of that's based on tenure and merit, so you are going to have that situation. I mean, if you have a brand new Parks and Rec director, you could have a park supervisor who's been here for, 20 years, who is may be making more than that. I mean, it's natural, but as long as your ranges allow for movement, it's,
Right.
and then, the other thing that I'll say, and when we talked about, when you give merit, it increases your base. I mean, you can always make a policy decision each year at budget and say, we could as a council say, you know what, in 2016, we want to give a merit, but you know what, you guys are gonna self-fund it within your budget. So you're gonna cut out something else. We expect a 4% merit bucket, and we expect merit to be given, but you're gonna have to self-fund it within your budget. I mean, so then you keep your salaries basically, or you keep your budget flat, I should say, salaries flat. But, I mean, so there's things that you can work through that.
Yep. Coming up with departmental efficiencies would help to bridge the gap on that. I mean, it encourages the different departments to be more judicious and more frugal with the dollars that they're given.
And I think we're getting a lot of good conversation here, but at the end of the day, I think when we're taking all these things into effect, what we really, and while we don't necessarily want to set a particular amount, we do have to set a maximum, I would imagine, for budget-making purposes, correct? Okay.
Need to get something to work with.
Last year, we had 6.
And you were 13,000 short.
And you were 13,000
So why
short.
can't we go
The
with
tiered.
75?
For a tiered approach.
And-
So if you wanna tier it, yes, we
And-
would need that.
You would need at least that, because remember, there's also what it impacts, Social Security, capers and KPF is 10% more than capers, so you gotta kinda think about that too.
That's why-
75 would be the minimum that I would suggest. That would put you where you were last year
Yep.
and not reach, that would have reached everybody who was eligible then.
Yep.
But if we went to 80, then it'd be a 33% increase over last year, right?
Okay. That
Yep.
would give you.
Covers more people.
Right, that would give you the potential if there were people who didn't reach it last year, who reached, who were able to reach the goal this year.
And with the tiered approach, and we take the money and divide it up based on, these people are gonna get, people in the lower tier get half of what the people in the upper tier get, and then you can build a formula that way, correct?
Yes, we would have that, yes, because, there was.
Qualification standards that we discussed, but
You can do that.
we can do that as part of policy.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the second piece, was the COLA piece of it.
Yep.
So, I just
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
clarify,
put that.
make sure we
Right.
understand exactly what we're putting in. Is the council kinda what we're hearing is we're putting in 80, and then we would,
2 tiers.
2 tiers, okay.
2%, 4%.
And that number is still the 92%, which is where we were last year. Is that correct, or did I get?
I think we talked about 90 and 95.
So we're gonna go to 90%, so
90 and
90 and 95.
Yeah.
That's what I said, the
Okay.
4.5 and the 4.75 that Chris mentioned.
So the threshold for qualifying for the full bonus or the full merit increase will be higher,
Absolutely, it's 95 is what I think I'm hearing.
which
Yeah, so
will,
that would be
further incent
4.75.
individuals. You have
Okay.
a 5-point scale, which becomes more empirical in terms of the measurement.
Okay. We got it, we can do that.
So we take a
Okay.
little bit more, a little subjectivity out.
All right?
Okay. So
Okay,
sau-
thank you for that.
Sausage making in process.
We can do that.
Are there any other handouts for COLA
No.
or
No.
market?
No, this was just historical document, how we got there, what your policy decision was last year.
Okay.
The goal is 1.6.